What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So here we go. Today we are going to be sleeving this Kawasaki 1500 cylinder. So this would be like Kawasaki 1500 Sxr, Kawasaki Stx15f, the Ultra LX. Very similar to the boosted engines. The cylinder is basically the same as well. So these can either be replated, they come plated from the factory, or sleeved. Personally, I prefer sleeved. So this one will be getting sleeved. There's benefits and negatives to both. Nicosil is extremely hard and wear resistant. That being said, cast iron is more temperature stable. So, aluminum expands a lot. Cast iron does not. Also, if you have an issue, after this is sleeved, it's very easy for us to just pull one sleeve out and drop a new one in. So this is why I prefer this, and in boosted applications and stuff like that, liners are really the only way to go, because you'll just break these. So let's get started with the video. Alrighty, so here's the cylinder. It's already set up in the boring stand. Couple things. One, you can't sleeve one. I get this question a lot. So what ends up happening is when we bore these and we bore this, so it's, when we're done, this will end up being 2.5 to 3 thousandths smaller than the sleeve. Then we heat this up, we drop the sleeve in, and the cylinder contracts around the sleeve, locking it in place. You've seen it in some of my other videos. Now the problem is, if you take something larger and you heat shrink it into this hole, you distort this hole. So if you do that, then this hole's not round and it's plated. So we can't hone it to correct that issue. So the correct way to do this, whether it's plated or sleeved, is you do all of them at once. You can't really just repair one. So I know some people do it. It's not the right way. It's not how we do it. And if you actually measure it carefully, you'll see when you do it, you distort the holes. Same thing on like V8 blocks that we do. If we were to sleeve this, we would have to fix this hole and this hole afterwards in the hone, because they would no longer be correctly round. As this shrinks around it, it distorts everything a little bit. We're not talking about distorting a lot, but it distorts it enough to create an issue. So let's get this set up. So the cutter's already set up in the bar, just to show you our measurements. So the sleeve diameter, so this inner section, well, I guess it would be the outer section, is 3.4 inches and 1/10,000. So we're going to bore this. First, we have this set, the bore diameter is 83 millimeters. We have it set to cut at 84 millimeters. You want the cutter to get behind the plating, to basically peel the plating. You want to take as deep of a cut as you can, within reason, of course. So we're taking 1 millimeter cut, 40,000th, which will peel all the plating off. So that's the first. So, and then we will move our way up to this final size, and we will stop at like 3.393-ish. So, which would give us 5 thousandths to hone this to the exact size where we'd have a 2.5 to 3 thousandth interference fit on each one of these. After all of those are rough machined, we will then machine the counter bore, which is 3.54 inches. We will machine the counter bores, and the height of that is 1/8, 1.25. So we'll machine them all 120 thousandths in. We will then take this out of the boring bar and move it into the honing machine, and we will finish honing it to within 2.5 to 3 thousandths of this size. So these holes will be smaller. We will then clean it, heat it up, and drop all the sleeves in, deck it, and hone it. So let's get to the live action. so we got the plating completely off. Now we will start bringing it to size. Just to explain what we're doing, so we're removing another 50 thousandths now. So the first cut was 40 thousandths, this one's 50. Then we will end up doing another cut that is probably like 40 and another 10. Just as the finished cut to have a nice perfect cut to hone last. So let's get this going, and then obviously we have all the other holes to do still. Alright, so we're at 3.35 now, so we're going to go to 3.38, and then one last cut, which will be 3.392 probably, and then we'll hone the rest. Now, one other thing, we do all the work on each hole, one at a time. The reason for that is this bar, which I've checked and made sure with the cat's paws, it centers within 1/1000th of an inch, which for this type of work is totally fine. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to bounce around to holes, because what happens is each time you center, it's within 1/1000th. But if you center it 4 times, you could technically end up 4 thousandths off. The odds of that happening are slim, but you don't want to put yourself in that predicament. So what I always do is when we're sleeving, we will bore and counterbore the same hole so everything is perfectly concentric with the same setup, and then move to the next and keep going, so on and so forth. I also go center out. I know some people also, if you're doing this in cast iron block that you're not going to preheat and you're going to press the sleeves in, you kind of want to stagger them. So let's say this was a cast iron block, we would do this hole and this hole, we would press the sleeves in, and then we would bore this hole and this hole for the same exact distortion thing I was telling you about before. So obviously this is aluminum, we are going to drop all these sleeves in at the same time with heat, so that doesn't come into the same issue with pressing in liners and cast iron blocks. But just food for thought, this method works for these. There's different ways to do everything. Also, cast iron blocks, you don't use as much of an interference fit because there's no need to. The great thing though in aluminum blocks is if we ever blow one of these up and we blow it up badly, odds are we can just heat this back up, drop a sleeve out, drop a new sleeve in, resurface the block, bore that hole, and send it back out the door. All this hard machine work will be done at that point. So let me get this set up, get it in the machine, and get boring. Alrighty, so we got it all bored to within size for us to hone it. Now we got the counter bore tool, we got the indicator set up. Let's do some work. So we gotta wait for it to touch. Perfect. And then I hand feed these because the small amount that we're going. So that's 25, 50, 75, 100. Now, where we gotta be perfect. There we go. 120,000 counter bore. Time to move to the next hole. Alright guys, so here we go. This one is the last hole. We've already taken the plating off. We're going to size. As you can see, these two are finished. So we did this one first, second, third, and then fourth. One thing, as I had said before, you kind of got to be careful because when you clamp these, you can make stuff move around, especially when you remove as much metal as we do. The other thing you want to do when you mount these is make sure the parallels are on top of each other so that you don't warp the block when you squeeze on it, which can also happen. Like I see people put parallels in the center and then on the outside, and when you squeeze you actually can bow the block, and then when you go to bore it later, all of a sudden you notice nothing is centered anymore. So you don't want to do that. So let's get this all set up. Let's finish that hole. Then this has to go in. We got to finish honing it all and continue on. All right, so here we go. We got all 4 done. So these are just bored and counterboard. So next up, going in the hone, we will finish honing it all to size and then clean it and get ready to heat it up to drop the sleeves in. So let's go over the honing machine. Alright guys, so here we go. Now we're just honing this all. Get it to the exact size. Perfect. All right. So now we're going to let this cool for a second, and then I'm going to recheck the measurements, because sometimes when you're honing aluminum, the aluminum heats up and it ends up growing a little bit more than you think. So right now they're all between 2 and 7/10 basically, and 3/1000, which is pretty much perfect. You know, I wanted it between 2.5 and 3. So we're going to let this cool. We will double check it again. Then I will clean it. I will deburr all the little machining edges lightly. And then we will heat it up and get ready to drop some sleeves in. So let's go to the next step, guys. Alrighty, so here we go. It is all machined, so you can see all the counterboards are set. Everything is honed to... They're all within, I don't know, I think two 10,000ths of an inch of each other. They range from around 3/1000 to, you know, 0.0027. So, it's ready to get heated up and put back in. Alrighty, so here we go. We got it all set up. So what we're going to do, we're going to put sleeve retaining compound on the base of all of these. We are then going to take the cylinder out, set it down, we will drop the sleeves in, and then I basically use old domes like this, and we will actually clamp them 2 at a time. So what you don't want to do is run a bar across all 4, because, you know, although they're all machined within 1,000th, if you squeeze down and like the lower one is 1,000th lower, there'll be a gap. So by squeezing on 2 and 2, they push down on each other, which is what you're looking to do. Just kind of explaining the reason I do it and why it works that way. So you kind of got to be careful of that setting sleeves, because the last thing you want is to have a sleeve drop when this is all done, when it does its first heat cycle. So let me get sleeve retaining compound on all of these. So, and I just do a little ring. This isn't anything, you know, you don't have to put a ton. This is really just to seal, to make sure you never end up with a water leak. See, super thin coat. This is same thing with like just about anything. Same thing with gasket maker, case sealant, stuff like that. You really just need a little bit. Putting too much doesn't make it better. It can actually cause issues. And this technically is not needed. It's just an extra piece of insurance when we assemble these, to make sure we only have to do it once. All right, let's take the cylinder out. Two. There we go. That one, you know, just got a little cocked when we were starting it. Got to be careful when you're doing it. Now, all these domes are really doing is giving us something to squeeze on. And they're not going to allow us to, are they? So what we will do then is we will do that like that. So we'll go ahead and squeeze this a little differently. There we go. So we'll squeeze those 2 down with that, and that with that. We're going to squeeze in the center. Now all this is doing, this isn't, we're not putting a ton of pressure on this or anything like that. The main idea behind this is that when this cools, sometimes the sleeves will actually slide up as it's cooling. So this just doesn't allow that to happen. So if you remember, we machine these. So this is machined, so the sleeves are actually proud 5/1000ths. So they actually stick up above the surface 5/1000ths. So now we're just squeezing them down, so as they cool, they can't pop up. And then we will take it out and do it. Let me get a closer up shot. I don't know if you can see. It's hard to tell, but if you look, you can actually see there's a gap at the edge of the metal. So that is just clamped. We will let it cool and then continue machining. Here we go. It is all cooled, all set up. So now the first thing we're going to do, we will mount it in the milling machine over there, and we will surface it. If you notice, this is just a gasket scraper, but you can see it doesn't look like it, but all the sleeves are just slightly proud. So all we're going to do is kiss these and just get a nice cut on everything and get ready to start boring it. So now we will deck it. We will then bore each hole and then finish hone it, and it's ready to go. All right, so here we go. We got it mounted in the mill. Now we just have to surface this bad boy. Let's get her down. So here we go, surfaced, looks beautiful. I'm really happy with how everything came out. So you can see all the sleeves. Look at that. It's like a piece of jewelry, man jewelry, or woman jewelry if you like this type of stuff. So now let's take it out of the mill. We will bore all 4 cylinders, hone it, and it is ready to make cool noises again. Let's get it in the boring bar. Be right back. There we go. We got the cylinder. All the sleeves are in. It's decked. We are now boring the holes to size. So these get bored straight to size. Then we will hone the clearance when everything is done. Here we go. All 4 holes are bored. Now, we are just going to chamfer the tops and the bottoms of the bores real quick, throw it in the hone, and hone it to size. So, let's get that done. Alright, so we got all the bottoms chamfered. So that is just to help the rings when you set the pistons in. We're just going to deburr the top edge. This we're just lightly hitting. This is just to make it where there isn't a sharp edge, which can create a hot spot. Now, let's throw it in the hone. Alright, so we got her in the hone. Now, so this, we are using cast pistons in iron liners. The pistons are getting set up at 2.5 thousandths clearance. We're using WSM pistons. These are the pistons that are going in. So this is a tighter than normal clearance for the 2-stroke stuff you normally see us do, but it's also because the piston is significantly shorter, so you can't have as much play or the piston will rock more than it should. So on 4-stroke stuff with cast pistons, they end up being tighter than you would normally see on a lot of the stuff we do. And she is all done. All ready to rock and roll again. There we go. Perfect. Alright guys, as always, greatly appreciate you coming back to the channel. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.